Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, while Bitcoin is still running into this significant resistance, we are seeing massive liquidity build just above the price of Bitcoin. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment, alongside the fact that Michael Saylor's strategy just bought over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, alongside BlackRock loading up on almost $1 billion worth of Bitcoin just yesterday. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment as well, alongside the price of Solana, which is still holding this critical level on the price chart, while the price of Chainlink is coming in for another retest of this significant area on the price chart. So I'll be talking about all of that and so much more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, we need to take a look at some Bitcoin news today, because it was only just yesterday that Michael Saylor announced that Strategy, previously known as MicroStrategy, has bought one of their biggest purchases of Bitcoin yet, over 15,300 Bitcoin for almost $1.5 billion US dollars, around 1.42 billion US dollars worth of Bitcoin. And so obviously having massive players like this continuing to buy more and more Bitcoin, this will ultimately lead to a supply squeeze, which can force the price of Bitcoin towards the upside over the longer term. But of course, in the immediate short term, a lot of these large purchases don't necessarily heavily affect the price of Bitcoin, because a lot of these large purchases are done OTC, over the counter. And so that's effectively a way of doing these large purchases without necessarily affecting the price of Bitcoin, so that they can basically buy significant amounts of Bitcoin without actually pumping the price and buying at higher prices. And so, for example, instead of just market buying on a crypto exchange, they essentially go to an OTC desk and essentially just send money to that person or that company, and then they just receive Bitcoin in return. And they do that basically off the counter, once again, off crypto exchanges. So it doesn't necessarily immediately impact the price of Bitcoin. But obviously, because Bitcoin is a very scarce asset, it has a strict limit to the supply. Of course, over time, this will force the price of Bitcoin towards the upside, as there's less Bitcoin to go around, because even the OTC desks eventually will run out of Bitcoin if this massive demand keeps up. So essentially, they have to buy Bitcoin from somewhere, and ultimately that will force prices higher over the long term if this demand keeps up. And on top of Strategy buying a massive amount of Bitcoin just yesterday, we saw BlackRock also buy almost $1 billion worth of Bitcoin just yesterday. Because if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin ETF inflows and outflows here, first of all, on Monday, we saw a net inflow of almost 600 million US dollars, around 591 million US dollars coming into the Bitcoin ETFs, which is buying pressure. And out of that $591 million net inflow, of course, we saw a few outflows here from some of the Bitcoin ETFs, but the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF in particular saw an inflow of over 970 million US dollars, almost $1 billion coming into just the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF in just one day. And in case you're new to all of this, essentially that money goes into the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF, and basically BlackRock takes that money and buys Bitcoin in order to back the ETF, because these are spot Bitcoin ETFs. So this is also demand for Bitcoin. And so just keep this in mind, whether or not the charts say we're bullish or bearish, fundamentally speaking, there's millionaires and billionaires that are having massive demand for Bitcoin right now. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today on the 4-day time frame, technically the super trend indicator has not changed over the last 1 day. So getting straight into the weekly time frame, and right now this weekly bearish divergence has not changed over the last 1 day. So getting straight into this weekly Bitcoin chart, and right now we're still in the recovery stage out of this correction here, as I've already been saying recently here on the channel. And of course, we're currently moving closer towards a bullish crossover here in the weekly Bitcoin MACD. But at the current rate, we're still potentially 1 to 2 weeks away from actually confirming a bullish crossover here. But despite the fact that we've not yet confirmed a bullish crossover, technically due to the fact that we're moving closer towards a bullish crossover, we're clearly recovering out of all of this previous bearish momentum here. If we're looking at the last couple of times this has happened on this indicator on this time frame, we were already in the recovery stage for the price of Bitcoin out of these pullbacks here, getting ready to start to flip more bullish. And so that is the current situation. And obviously I've already been saying that for a while now on the channel. It's perfectly playing out. And if we're taking a look at the 3-day time frame, right now we're still currently running into this area of resistance based on the volume profile indicator, showing a lot of resistance at approximately 96,000, really in between around 96 to 97,000. We have some major resistance around there. And as for support, at least based on this chart right here, I would expect significant support based on previous significant resistance flipping into new support, sitting in between around 86,000 to 88,000. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart, technically speaking, we're still playing out the bullish divergence, at least for now. We've not confirmed any invalidation signals to invalidate the bullish divergence, which means we should continue to expect either a bullish relief in the price or maybe just a bit of choppy sideways price action as the most likely outcomes from a bullish divergence. And obviously, I've been saying that every day here on the channel since all the way back down here. And of course, just over the last few days in the shorter term, we have been slowing down, just cooling off right now, considering the fact that we're still relatively close to overbought territories in the daily Bitcoin RSI. So of course, this is still playing out perfectly as expected. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, right now, we're still running into this significant area of resistance, sitting in between around 94,500 to 95,500. So really around 95 to 96K, that is the key resistance that we need to break. And so once again, as I've been saying for the past week here on the channel, since before we reached these price levels, I said expect the price of Bitcoin to struggle at these exact levels, which is now exactly playing out. And it's possible we could continue to struggle a little longer, maybe just over the next few days. Once again, only just in the short term here. But soon enough, due to the fact that the RSI is based on a certain number of previous candle closes here, soon enough, if we continue this sort of struggle, this choppy sideways price action in the short term, the RSI will begin to soon basically drop down towards more neutral levels, resetting, giving us more room towards the upside later on. And so it's actually a good thing for Bitcoin to struggle a little bit and cool off in the short term, which can ultimately give us more room towards the upside once again. And if we can finally confirm a breakout above ideally 96,000 with candle closes above that level, in that situation, the next short-term level of resistance I'll be watching is sitting at just above 98,000. And above that, we have more resistance at around 101,000 based on this Fibonacci level. And above that, honestly, I'll be targeting around 106 to 107K and also around 110K. So basically the all-time highs. And so in other words, once we finally confirm a breakout above around 96,000, give or take, it's very likely that soon after that, we'll simply recover towards all-time highs. And if we're zooming into the immediate short term, looking at the 4-hour time frame, obviously over the last few days, while Bitcoin's been struggling at this resistance, we have perfectly been playing out this short-term bearish divergence just on the 4-hour time frame in the form of mostly choppy sideways price action with a slight little pullback here from the local highs, which is once again one of the most common outcomes from a bearish divergence. But considering the fact that this is only on the 4-hour time frame, I would not necessarily rely on this bearish divergence for too much longer. Obviously, it's already been perfectly playing out for the last 2 days, give or take 2 to 3 days now. And usually that's the type of thing that happens from a bearish divergence on the 4-hour time frame. Usually these sort of patterns and signals just on the shorter term here and the smaller time frames, they don't play out over weeks and months, just maybe over a few days. And so once again, as I said earlier, it's possible we could struggle maybe for another couple of days around this resistance, but soon enough, at least in my opinion, overall, we are looking more bullish than bearish, considering we are currently within the recovery, moving towards more bullish momentum. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we actually have a lot of liquidity just suddenly starting to build above the price of Bitcoin here in the short term, sitting in between around 96,000 to 96.4K. So basically around 96K and just above 96K. Once again, we have a lot of liquidity just now starting to build around there. And of course, if you've been watching this channel, even just for the last couple of weeks or so, you'll know how accurate this chart has been, especially recently here on the channel. Obviously, I predicted this exact short squeeze right here before it happened, thanks to this chart right here. And essentially, it's flashing the same signal right now in the short term as what we saw right here. So just keep this in mind. We saw a pump, a cool off, and then we saw that liquidity building just above the price. And right there, I was telling you, it's very, very likely, never a guarantee, but very likely we'll see a bit of a short squeeze, a bit of a pump coming soon. And right now we are seeing the exact same signal repeat. And so just keep this in mind. Once again, it's never a 100% guarantee, but it is very likely that very soon the price of Bitcoin will come up above 96,000 to wipe out some of this liquidity here. And so with all of that being said, what is my exact Bitcoin trading strategy. And well, right now I'm still currently within the long position, which I shared here on the channel as I was opening the trade all the way back down here at close to 88,000 at that previous breakout. And so as always, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Once again, I'm currently more bullish than bearish, which is why I'm still currently within this Bitcoin long position. But of course, right now my stop loss is above my entry, sitting in profit. So even in the worst case scenario, if we just crash out of nowhere, that would hit the stop loss and automatically close the trade at that level in profits. And if you want to actually trade these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, like what I'm doing right now to easily profit in the crypto market, then of course you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I'm taking this trade right here over on 2bit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, you can get some massive sign up bonuses. And also, in case you're wondering, 2bit is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want 2bit as an exchange, there's also BTNex as another exchange out there that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to BTNex below this video. And if you use that link, you can get a massive 10% discount on all trading fees forever over on the BTNex exchange. That is a massive lifetime fee discount on all trading fees, which you can only claim using that link. And on top of that massive exclusive fee discount, you can get some huge deposit bonuses over here as well over on BTNex. And in case you're wondering, BTNex is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on the weekly time frame, and right now obviously Ethereum is continuing the bounce, the short-term bullish relief from this significant area of support, still sitting in between 1.4k to 1550. And so obviously not a lot has changed on this larger time frame here for Ethereum over the last one day. So getting straight into the daily time frame, and right now we are back above this Fibonacci level, which was sitting at just below 1.8k. And so obviously the fact that the price of ETH is holding above that Fibonacci level, that is some short-term bullish news for Ethereum, because that was previous significant support back here and was temporarily acting as resistance. So obviously now that we're holding above that level, that is some short-term bullish price structure. But clearly in the immediate short term, we don't necessarily have a significant amount of bullish momentum, mainly due to the fact that Bitcoin is still currently struggling around this resistance in the short term. And as I always say, Ethereum, along with a lot of the altcoins, follow similar price action, not the exact same price action, but similar price action to what Bitcoin is doing. So if Bitcoin continues a little bit of a cool off, that will likely affect the price of ETH here in the short term. But then of course, if we ultimately confirm a breakout here for Bitcoin, that can really help Ethereum and a lot of the crypto market. And so that is still the situation for Ethereum right now. Not a lot has changed over the last one day. And when it comes to resistance to watch out for, we do have some resistance at just above 1.9k, but the next significant level of resistance for Ethereum is sitting at around 2.1k. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the 3-day time frame, right now Solana obviously is still playing out this bullish divergence, which means we should continue to expect either a bullish relief or maybe a bit of choppy sideways price action in the short term here is the most likely outcome. So obviously that's still been perfectly playing out as expected. And if we're taking a look at the daily Solana price chart, also some good news for Solana is the fact that we're still holding above this Fibonacci level, which was significant resistance in the past and is currently acting as short-term support, and that's sitting at approximately 146 to 147. And so that is the key point of support to pay attention to in the short term. But let's just say if we were to see a confirmed break below around 146, in that situation, the next short-term level of support would be sitting at approximately 136 to 137 based on these previous points of resistance, flipping into new support. And as for further resistance to the upside for the price of Solana, we have this 50% retracement level acting as resistance at around $167, and also that was previous support at 167, and above that we have more resistance at around 179 and significant resistance in between 191 to 200. And once again, as I said, for Ethereum, expect similar price action for Solana as what Bitcoin is doing. So if Bitcoin struggles a little bit in the short term and then maybe sees a breakout later on, expect something similar in the short shorter term for Solana. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the 3-day time frame, technically this large bearish divergence is still affecting the price of XRP, as I've been saying for months now on the channel, since much higher prices. But like I've been saying just recently here on the channel, we are getting somewhat close to possibly invalidating the bearish divergence, because if we simply start to see more of a breakout here in the RSI, ideally above this previous high in the 3-day XRP RSI, that would be one invalidation signal pointing towards more of a recovery in the price of XRP. But for now, we've not yet seen that. And if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, technically we're still within the descending parallel channel, which is effectively a bearish trend on the daily time frame. But clearly during this descending parallel channel, we are within a short-term bullish relief. And so that is still the situation for XRP. Not a lot has changed over the last one day once again, and we're currently moving closer towards the next significant resistance based on previous resistance in the price, and also this descending line of resistance coming together at close towards around $2.45 to $2.50. And so once again, not a lot has changed for XRP over the last one day. So getting straight into the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, and right now Chainlink is once again retesting this significant area of resistance, sitting in between around $14.90 to $15.50. So especially that $15.50 level, that is key resistance. But technically, while the price of Chainlink is still struggling around this resistance, of course, technically this bullish divergence is still currently active. We've not yet confirmed an invalidation signal to invalidate the bullish divergence, which means the bullish divergence is trying to play out as the price is running into key resistance, which will likely cause a bit of choppy sideways price action in the immediate short term here. And of course, that's been perfectly playing out as expected over the last half a week or so. But if we can ultimately confirm a breakout, ideally with candle closes confirming above 1550, in that situation, the bullish divergence can simply continue to play out towards the next significant point of resistance, which is sitting at around 1750 to 1760. And even if we were to see a bit of a pullback here, further rejection from this resistance, in that situation, we have a possible inverse head and shoulders pattern forming here. But I want to make it clear, at least for now, that's just a possible formation. We've still got a long way to go to possibly confirm that pattern. We still need to actually see a further rejection and then ultimately a breakout above 1550 in order to confirm that. And once again, as I always say, expect similar price action for Chainlink as what Bitcoin is doing. So if we can ultimately break out for Bitcoin, that can help Chainlink with a potential breakout here. And once again, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, check out those links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses and fee discounts that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto no matter what the price is doing, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.